Hello friends, welcome back. I'm Ramon. How are you today? In today's video, I'm going to be touching on a topic that I bring up a lot, talk about a lot on my channel, and that is proper sunscreen application. But on top of that, sunscreen reapplication throughout the day. I did some research in this video, and a lot of the resources on YouTube were like talking about reapplication for people who like wear generous sunscreen and then put a tinted sunscreen on top of that. That's like kind of sheer with no actual coverage, and then set with a sunscreen powder. And I'm not that kind of person. I'm someone who I wear a full beat and need to reapply on top of that. And that's what I'm trying to share with you guys today. So before we get into it, I'm going to ask that you subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you know when I post more sunscreen related content on this channel, which is pretty much all I ever post anymore. And in the comments down below, tell me what are some of your favorite sunscreen reapplication tips and products that to use on the daily. Also, before we get into this, I'm going to ask that you, like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, and as you're reading the description box down below, check out and donate to these organizations in these threads that I've linked that are helping you support Black Lives Matter and the protesters that are out there doing work in the streets. Threads include links to the organizations that you can donate to that are going to support food, aid, medical resources for the people that are out there protesting, as well as bail bonds for those who've been arrested as a result of protesting. This channel is pro-Black lives, pro-Black Lives Matter, pro-Black women, pro-Black trans and queer folk. I don't have the subscribers to be able to monetize this channel. I don't do sponsored content, so this is the only way I can really ask that you financially support the cause. So please do so if you can. So as I mentioned before, this video is going to be a nice, concise how-to on sunscreen application, as well as the often mentioned but not necessarily talked about very frequently topic of reapplication throughout the day. As you put on sunscreen in the morning before work, it's degrading, it's wearing down throughout the day. You want to be able to maintain a good amount of UV protection because you get ready in the morning, UV's at its peak in the middle of the day, and you're getting off work, being outside while the sun's still out. So this is going to be a really good video on how to do so while wearing a full face of makeup, as well as with products and methods that hopefully don't leave you like heavy, greasy, cakey, gross. So the initial application. I always talk about on my channel that you need a really good base layer of sunscreen application in the morning. That general rule of thumb is about 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon to cover your face, your ears, and your neck. And for reference, I'm going to show you what 1/4 teaspoon of sunscreen looks like using the Biore Watery Gel Sunscreen. And one thing you're going to notice is that it's going to seem like a lot. That's a lot of sunscreen. So in order to kind of prevent this from going on your face and being like mad heavy, mad uncomfortable, I usually end up applying this in about 2 to 3 sheer layers of stripping. That amount is necessary because the SPF on the bottles, that is the designation of sunscreen protection, is basically found through very rigorous research and very rigorous testing. And there's a specific amount of sunscreen that needs to be worn in order to get that same quantity. Any less than that, you're not getting this amount. You're basically kind of wasting your money essentially. So don't act all high and mighty about SPF if you're not wearing the right amount of sunscreen. With that, I'm going to stress really work on getting a really high strength protective sunscreen. So SPF, I don't really go below 50. Or above, honestly. And that's just because as you put on sunscreen in the beginning of the day, I'm someone who I generally don't reapply. But realistically, no matter how advanced your UV filters are or how photostable these filters are, sunscreen's going to degrade throughout the day. And that's just because you're rubbing your face, you're touching your face, your skin oils are starting to break down the sunscreen filters. And that's perfectly normal, it happens. But there's studies that do prove that if you have a high enough strength of SPF protection and it starts to degrade throughout the day, you're still going to maintain a much lower but still decently substantial amount of SPF protection if you cannot touch up. But if you're someone who gets ready 6, 7 in the morning and you're exposed to UV throughout the day, this is where it really comes in handy for you. And you might be like, well, that's like a lot of sunscreen and it's going to be really heavy. Find a texture that works for you. It's 2020. There's a lot of really amazing sunscreen textures and sunscreen formulations, mineral or chemical, that you'll want to apply a good amount of, and that is going to make you want to wear sunscreen every day. Also, on top of that, I will say a lot of sunscreens, if not most sunscreens, due to how they're formulated, are amazing moisturizers. Skip your moisturizer step just to substitute sunscreens. I always really talk about Perito sunscreens and the Biore sunscreens, specifically the Biore Watery Essence, as being amazing formulas that really give you a lot of hydration and also moisturizing factors. And therefore, I usually just do a hydrator and then these, and I'm set for the day. When you apply your sunscreen, wait a good, I usually wait about 5 minutes. I will put on sunscreen, braid my hair, brush my teeth, put on clothes, just to make sure that that sunscreen protection layer sets and is good, so then you can go on top of that with your makeup. So now your makeup's applied, you're good. It's been about 3 to 4 hours. It's time for you to reapply. And reapplication, as I mentioned, again, is due to the result that your sunscreen degrades throughout the day. If you're inside for the most part, generally are decently fine. You're not getting the full brunt of UV. Mainly you're just getting exposed to UVA because it gets through glass, but really application is really enforced for you if you're out in the brunt of high UV index sun, you are sweating and you are exercising, and those are when you really want to trust your application. But honestly, people want to step up and amp up their sunscreen game throughout the day, and that's cool too, and that's where reapplication really comes in. There's really like 3 main ways to reapply sunscreen over your makeup. Number 1, straight up just applying sunscreen over makeup. And I'll show you a technique and kind of some resources for how to do this. You're literally just taking the same sunscreen you applied in the morning and putting that over your makeup. It works, trust me. Number 2 is using a sunscreen spray. And number 3 is using a mineral powder SPF over your makeup to touch up throughout the day. Reapplying your sunscreen over your makeup directly is a really great technique to give you, in my opinion, one of the more thorough reapplication techniques. For this, I do not recommend mineral filter sunscreens. A, just due to the fact that most of them will give you white cast and sit really heavy over your makeup, but also B, I don't find their texture to be very, very efficient for this. In makeup, if you study makeup or know makeup, there's techniques of using really lightweight cream moisturizers, warming those up in your hands and pressing those into makeup to kind of rehydrate and re-enliven foundation, concealer, products you have in your face. And that's basically what we're doing with sunscreens. Sunscreen textures I recommend for this are basically really lightweight gel or serum texture sunscreens. For example, the Misha Sun Milk Essence is one of my all-time favorites for this just because it's so lightweight but has really amazing UV protection. It's very lightweight, it's dripping down my hands. It's a really great texture. If not, the Biore Watery Essence is another great option. This one is pretty much just like a gel sunscreen texture. Super sheer, super lightweight. Basically, you're just going to press it into your makeup. It's going to set in and do its work. Miss Hannah English, who I'm going to link her Instagram somewhere on screen, is a really great resource for this. She has a whole highlight of stories on her Instagram page where she talks about this. She prefers to use the Juno & Co sponge dry, since she says the microfiber texture of it doesn't absorb sunscreen. It just helps push it into your makeup. I personally prefer a little air cushion. This is a little BB cushion. You can get these if you have little BB foundations, but you can also just order these online. These are great because they also don't absorb product. And basically with these, you would just pick up your product and press it. Never swipe. The key is press where you want the UV protection. You can do a few layers of this, but what I will say is no matter how you're going to reapply your sunscreen, you're not going to get the same ample amount of protection you did with the initial application. That's why I always stress, apply sunscreen first, a nice generous amount in the morning to kind of give you that base protection, and each reapplication throughout the day is kind of reinforcing that to a certain extent. And this reapplication method works amazing for dry skin, oily skin. Just find the right sunscreen texture for this. But again, serum and gel is my preferred. I don't recommend mineral sunscreens for this one. So we're going to get into the next two, and those are going to be spray and powder forms. With these two methods of reapplication, I will say these are strictly only for retouch-up application. Try using a 1/4 teaspoon of this or of powder and look at how it's gonna look on your skin. It's not the same thing, trust. So sprays. To spray. These are great alternatives over makeup in my opinion, especially if you have more dry skin. Reason being, they're not really gonna mess up your makeup. They're gonna sit on your skin really, really nice and lightweight. They're not gonna cause any alteration of your makeup, period. These can be in either aerosol cans like this one. This is the VT Sika X Care Sika Sun Spray, SPF 50 PA3+. But you can get alternatives like this from Kate Somerville, from Kula, from Supergoop. And they also have other versions that are just more like actual setting spray type packaging and textures. Pros with this, great for dry skin, great for reapplication over most types of skin though, and won't mess up your makeup. Really, really convenient, gives you a really radiant finish. Cons, a lot of times, especially with the American ones I'm finding, there's a risk of high alcohol content and or fragrance, as well as just regular fragrance. Sometimes they're really, really greasy and really, really radiant. So really be careful about what texture you're using. I specifically like the Korean and Japanese ones I find, because again, their technology for sunscreens is amazing. With the alcohol in these, it's intended to make them more quick evaporating. That being said, be careful around your eyes because that's the main complaint I've seen is that they can burn your eyes. But with these, I recommend spray it, kind of shield your eyes if you can, or just be careful. With your eyes closed, let it sit for about 30 to 60 seconds and you should be good. Don't inhale. And next is going to be sunscreen powders. Sunscreen powders are really cool in that they come in specific kinds of formulations. I don't have one right now, but I'll put a picture up here, where it's basically like the brush head is attached to a really cool component where the sunscreen mineral powder is held, and basically you tap it out to get the sunscreen towards the end of the brush, and that's how you apply the mineral sunscreen powder over your face and your makeup. It's the most convenient for travel, mainly because the packaging for those is much smaller than this. If you can get smaller sizes of this, that's cool, but the powder SPFs are like this big pretty much. And plus, for me, these are really great concepts for summer, because when you think about it, summer, you're hot, you're kind of luminous. These powder is going to help mattify your skin, kind of reduce a lot of that shine and give you a nice smooth airbrushed look. And like spray sunscreens, which are only chemical filters, the powder sunscreens are usually going to be only mineral filters, sunscreen powders. With those, again, the risk for white cast due to the two types of mineral filter sunscreens is going to be high, but a lot of companies, especially Supergoop, have a wide range of tints available to really minimize or completely eliminate that white cast factor while still giving you that UV protection that you need. So pros, travel friendly. They're mineral filters, which are a lot better for sensitive skin types. They are super easy to apply, just boop, boop, boop. These are, I think, the most amazing for oily skin, but not the most amazing for dark skin generally, unless you can get a really good tinted one. These also will not mess up your makeup. And then what I found out was really cool is that a lot of brands offer refillable packaging, so that powder portion you could refill with more SPF powder. Cons. mineral filters. Flashback. And sometimes with the powder, as with the spray, there's certain textural issues that might happen. While the spray might make you too greasy and a little bit too shiny, the SPF powders can get a little bit heavy and clumpy. For any sunscreen reapplication, I really recommend before you go in, blot, eliminate any excess oils, and then go and reapply. With the powder, if you don't blot, that sunscreen powder is going to mix with your oils and get real clumpy. So with those 3 application techniques, really look at what works for you. I personally like all 3 for different kinds of reasons. Reapplying straight sunscreen over your makeup is going to give you the most consistent, the best quality sunscreen reapplication, but some people A, are afraid to, or B, think it's going to mess up their makeup, which trust me, it won't. Just be careful. The spray is a great option if you're out and about, you just want a really quick touch up, and the powder is really great again as well if you are really an on-the-go person, prefer mineral filters, or you're more oily skin. And with that, yeah, as we're heading into summer, I just really want to stress the importance of wearing sunscreen all day, every day, no matter what you're doing or where you are. UV rays do not discriminate, and just because you're someone who doesn't get burned, realize UVA rays cause just as much, if not more, damage than UVB rays directly, because they can get deeper into your skin, really mess up the DNA in your skin cells, really exacerbate skin darkening and hyperpigmentation and discoloration in the skin. Just make sure you wear sunscreen. So yeah, with that, thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions or comments, leave those down below in the comments box. Again, please try to donate to whatever local organizations are doing work with Black Lives Matter and the protesters to support them and bail them out. Try to spread those resources to your friends and your family if you can, just to really support the people that are out there fighting for this cause. Remember, a lot of this is due to legislation, so 2020, vote. So yeah, make sure you like and subscribe, the notification bell. If there's any questions or comments, make sure you leave those down in the comments down below. Yeah, thanks guys. Bye.